Hello everyone, I welcome you all to Benju's Education, and our today's topic of discussion is the quantity comparison type question for GRE exam. And the chapter that we'll be covering up today is Inequalities and Modulus. Now this is the second video for Inequalities and Modulus question type quantity comparison. So if this is the first video that you're going through, then I would suggest you to go through the first video also, right? That is quantity comparison, inequalities and modulus. In that video, we have also discussed what a quantity comparison is, right? So we will not be discussing what a quantity comparison question type is. So, and I believe that since you are a GRE aspirant, so you would be knowing what a quantity comparison question type is, all right? Okay, then so without wasting any time further, we were done till question number 8 in that video. So no, I think we were done till question number 7, my bad. So we will start with question number 8. So I guess everyone knows what the procedure is. You would be pausing the video, you will try the question yourself first, then you'll play back the video and understand how to solve a particular question. Okay. So in this video, we'll try to attempt the remaining 13, 14 questions, whatever we have, right? And we'll try to discuss them as much as we can. Okay, so pause the video and try this question. All right, so the question stem is y is equal to x square plus 1, quantity A is xy, quantity B is x cube. All right, now let's put a question mark in between because we do not know which inequality sign it's going to have. Now the point with y is equal to x square plus 1 or the question stem is that I cannot solve this further. Like because I do not know what's x and what's the value of y. So first of all, I can't plug in the values. And second, if y is equal to x square plus 1, if I write y minus 1 is equal to x square, then x is equal to plus minus under root of y minus 1. So I don't think that's going to help me. And frankly, I'm not very comfortable with the root part. And so let's keep it as it is. So simply y is equal to x square plus 1, which means I cannot calculate the value of y, I cannot calculate the value of x because both of them are unknown to me. I simply have a relationship between two things, that is y and x. So the one thing that I can do here, I think it's the only thing that I can do here is that in the quantity A where it's given to me as x into y, I can replace y by x square plus 1. So this will basically become x. In place of y, you will have x square plus 1 and question mark and quantity B is simply x cube. This is x cube plus x. I'm going to have question mark and I'm going to have x cube. Now what I'll do further is that what I can do is I can subtract x cube on both the sides. I'm not dividing by x because I do not know whether x is positive or negative. I do not know that. So I'm not going to divide, but I can I can definitely subtract x cube on both the sides. So this goes, or okay, we have already subtracted. So x cube minus x cube becomes 0. So I'm going to have x as quantity A and I'm going to have 0 as quantity B. I'm going to have x as quantity A and I'm going to have 0 as quantity B. Okay. Now, do we know anything about x? Like, do we know it's going to be positive, it's going to be 0, it's going to be negative? No, we do not know anything of that sort. Like, it may happen x is minus 4, it may happen x is 0, it may happen x is plus 4. All the three are possible, right? So, x can be positive, x can be negative, x can be 0 also. So, do we have a definite relationship between the two quantities? Do we have a definite relationship between the two quantities? The answer is no. We do not have a definite relationship between the two quantities. Hence, our answer is simply option 4, that is the relationship between the two cannot be determined. Okay. Now, I have a question before we actually move on further. Let's say suppose we had an expression in quantity A and B. We had an expression in quantity A and B in such a way that after solving or after simplifying both the quantities, We will get y in quantity A, we will get y in quantity A and 0 in quantity B. We have expressions in quantity A and quantity B in such a way that after simplification my quantity A becomes y and my quantity B becomes 0. And this statement is given to us. This question stem is given to us. This question stem is still valid. This question stem is still valid. Now in this case, if your quantity A is y and your quantity B is 0, given the fact that the question stem stays as it is, that is y is equal to x square plus 1, what will be your answer in this case? What will be your answer in this case? Let me know your answer in the comment box. If your quantity A is y or quantity B is 0, the question stem still holds true. What will be your answer? It will be 1, 2, 3 or 4. It will be A, B, C or D. Let me know that in the comment box. Okay. Let's move on to question number 9 now. Pause the video and try the question please. Okay. So question stem is x is less than y. X is less than y. So I can rewrite this as, first way of rewriting this is, I can subtract y on both the sides and I can have x minus y is less than y minus y, which gives us x minus y is less than 0. Which gives us x minus y is less than 0. Second is, let me subtract x on both the sides. So x minus x is less than y minus x. So this gives me y minus x is greater than 0. Or 0 is less than y minus x. It's the same thing one way or the other. Okay. So x minus y is less than 0. That means my first conclusion is x minus y is negative. My second conclusion is y minus x is positive. X minus y is negative, which means this is a negative quantity. Y minus x is positive, so this is like a positive square quantity. What will be your answer? Which of them will be greater? Now, of course, positive square will always be positive, right? Positive square is always positive. In fact, negative square is also positive. Now, this quantity B being a positive number, this being a positive number, this will always be greater than a negative number. So, which of them is greater? Quantity B is greater, and that's your answer. That is your answer. All right, let's move on. Okay, pause the video and try this question, please. All right, so we have a to the power b is less than 0. A to the power b is less than 0. So a to the power b is less than 0. Now, if an expression is negative, if an exponential expression is negative, we need to understand one thing here, that power has no role, power plays no role in making an expression negative. Power plays no role in making an expression negative. For example, let's take three examples. You have 2 cube, you have 2 to the power minus 3, you have, or let's take 2 to the power 3, 2 to the power minus 3, half to the power 3, and half to the power minus 3. Let's take all of them just to understand that power actually plays no role in making an expression negative. Now, what's the value of 2 cube? 2 cube is 8. What's the value of half cube? Half cube is 1 over 8. What's the value of 2 to the power minus 3? So this is like 1 over 8. Because whenever you have a negative power, the entire expression goes in the denominator. And what about half to the power negative 3? half to the power negative 3 is simply equal to it. Because again, you will inverse it. So inverse of half is 2. So the point is, even if you have a negative power, what you will simply have to do is you will have to take the reciprocate of the function, reciprocate of the number, or reciprocate of the expression. You will simply have to take the reciprocate of the expression. So the point is power, whether the power is positive, negative, or 0. Something to the power 0 is always equal to 1. We know that. Apart from 0, because 0 to the power 0 is not defined, but apart from that, you take any number, raise it to the power 0, it's always equal to 1. So whether you have a positive power or whether you have a negative power, the expression will never change its sign. The expression will never change its sign. That's the first thing. But what I mean by that, let's suppose if you took example of minus 2 cube, minus half cube, or okay, we can take these two examples. This is more than sufficient. If you take minus 2 cube, this is minus 8. If you take minus half cube, this is minus 1 by 8. So whether your power is positive or whether your power is negative, the sign of the expression will not change. That means b will in this case will have no role if a to the power b is less than 0. If a to the power b is less than 0, b will actually play no role unless and until a is positive or negative. Unless and until a is positive or. So now if we want a to the power b to be less than 0, then the first thing we need to understand here is that a has to be less than 0. This a has to be less than 0. This is the first thing. Because if a is positive, then no matter what the value of b is, whether positive decimal, whatever it may be, if a is positive, then a to the power b will always be positive. So if a to the power b has to be negative, then the only thing is that a has to be negative or a has to be less than 0. A has to be less than 0. Now what about b? What about b? This is what we need to understand. So we have negative number, that's for sure, to the power b, and we want the result to be less than 0. Now we know one thing for sure, if you have a negative number and you raise it to an even power, then the result is always positive. Like what's minus 2 square? 4. What's minus 3 square? 9. What's minus 4 to the power 4? 256. What's minus 5 square? 25. So if you have a negative number and you raise it to an even power, the result is always positive. The result is always positive, and we know this. Which means the only possibility, if you want to have your result to be less than 0, the only possibility is that you have a negative number and you raise it to a negative power. Sorry, my bad, not negative power, I'm really sorry. You raise it to an odd power. Like what's minus 2 cube? Minus 8. What's minus half cube? Minus 1 by 8. What's minus 3 to the power 5? Minus 243. What's minus 4 to the power 1? Minus 4. What's minus 5 cube? Minus 125. If we want a to the power b to be less than 0, the only possibility that we have is we have a negative number and we raise it to an odd power. So we can conclude basically that a is negative and b is odd. This is our conclusion. But if a is negative and b is odd, do we have a specific relationship between them? Like for example, I can say that A is minus 5, B is 7. This is also negative number. I can say A is minus 5, B is also minus 5. This will also give you, or if you're having a hard time understanding what's minus 5 to the power minus 5, take it to be minus 3. This is also fine. So you will have minus 5 to minus 3. So this is minus 1 by 5 to the power 3. This is minus by 125. This is again negative. Or you can take minus 5, then raise it to like minus 10. This will also give you, or sorry, minus 11, my bad, not minus 10. It has to be odd. I'm sorry. This will again give you a negative number. All the three cases are giving you negative numbers. Do we have a specific relationship between A and B? No, we don't have that. No, we don't have that. So remember one thing in this is a very good question. Remember the conclusion if a to the power b is less than 0, because usually exponents do confuse us when mixed with inequalities. If a to the power b is less than 0, that is if a to the power b is negative, then a is negative and b is also odd. Now it can be odd positive, it can be odd negative also. B can be odd positive, B can be odd negative also. So do we have a specific relationship between A and B? The answer is no. The relationship cannot be determined. 4 is my answer. Alright, let's move on to question number 11. Pause the video and try this question, please. Alright, so we have another question which belongs to the range of 0 to 1. I hope everyone now remembers the conclusion, right? We have done like a couple of questions from 0 to 1. Okay, this was one of the main highlights when we were doing the basics of inequalities also, right? Okay, now let's understand. So we have quantity A, x minus x to the power 4. We have quantity B, x square minus x cube. Now, one thing that we can conclude as soon as we see the range 0 to 1, one thing that we conclude regarding the variable is that higher the power, lesser the value. We have higher the power, lesser the value. So in between 0 and 1, you can say that x will be bigger than x square, which will further be bigger than x cube, which will be further bigger than x to the power 4, and so on and so forth. Now quantity A is x minus x to the power 4, quantity B is x square minus x cube. Now I know that if I arrange these four terms, that is if I arrange x, x square, x cube, x to the power 4 in ascending order, I can say x will be the biggest, then it will be x square, then it will be x cube, and then it will be x to the power 4. This one thing is for sure because I know that between 0 and 1, higher the power, lesser the value. Now look at quantity A. Quantity A is basically x minus x to the power 4. So you have the highest number and from that you are subtracting the lowest number. You have the highest number and from that you are subtracting the lowest number. And in quantity B, you are doing x square minus x cube. That is, you have a smaller number. You have a smaller number which you are again subtracting from the second smallest number. Now we know that whenever you do subtraction, subtraction is all about taking the difference. Subtraction is all about taking the difference. So can I say the difference between x and x to the power 4, the difference between x and x to the power 4 will be greater than difference between x square and x cube? Because x is the biggest number, x to the power 4 is the smallest number. And x square and x cube, these two numbers basically come in between x and x to the power 4. So difference between x square and x cube will definitely be less than the difference between x and x to the power 4. Right? So I can say that x minus x to the power 4 will definitely be greater than x square minus x cube. That's for sure. So your answer is A. Okay, so this is a one way in which you can actually solve the problem without even manipulating quantity A and quantity B. What's the other way around? Like if you're not very comfortable with the subtraction and the differences, no, then there is another way out. Put a question mark because you do not know what the relationship is. Now what I will do is I'm gonna add x to the power on both the sides, and I'm gonna add x cube on both the sides. And hence my expression becomes x plus x cube and x square plus x to the power 4. My expression on the left, that is quantity A, becomes x plus x cube. My expression on the right for quantity B becomes x square plus x to the power 4. Now again I know that in between 0 and 1, higher the power, lesser the value. Which means one thing is for sure, that x is greater than x square, and second is x cube is greater than x to the power 4. Which means I can definitely say that quantity A will be greater. Which means I can again say that quantity A will be greater. So what's my answer? My answer is 1, that is quantity A is. Alright, let's move on to the next one now. Okay, pause the video and draw this question, please. Alright, so you have the value of g which is between -1 and 0, and you have the value of h which is a positive integer. Now, let's suppose if nothing strikes you, what you can do is, and this should be actually your last resort. The reason why I'm telling you this as first is because usually the problem students faces while solving the question is the time limit also, right? So this actually should be your last resort. But if nothing strikes you and if you're feeling that exam pressure, then you can actually do this way. What you can do is, since the value of g lies between -1 and 0, you take g to be minus half. Why minus half? Because minus half is easy to solve with the powers also. So quantity A is minus half. Now quantity B is minus half to the power h. Now what is h? H is a positive integer. Now when you talk about positive integers, what are the different types of positive integers that we have? Like we can have an odd positive integer or we can have even positive integer. These are the only two types. Nothing else can happen. So I'll take couple of values, like I can take h to be 1, 2, 3, 4. This will be like more than sufficient for me. This is minus half to the power 1, minus half square, minus half cube, and minus half to the power 4. Now negative number to an even power, I won't even solve this because we just discussed this couple of questions back. If you have a negative number and you raise it to an even power, the result is always positive. The result is always positive. Negative half to the power 2 is 1 by 4. Negative half to the power 4 is 1 over 16. In both the cases, the result is positive. But what about when you have an odd power? So in the first case, you are having minus half to the power 1. So this is actually equal to minus half, which is equal to quantity A. What about minus half to the power 3? Minus half to the power 3 is basically minus 1 over 8, which is basically less than minus half. Sorry, my bad, my bad. This is still greater than minus half. Because in case of negative number, the smaller the number is, greater its value. In case of negative number, smaller the number is, greater its value. For example, we know that minus 1 is greater than minus 2 is greater than minus 3, and so on and so forth. Similarly, minus 1 by 8 will be greater than minus 1 by 2. So in three cases, that is negative half squared, negative half to the power 4, and negative half cube, the values are coming out to be greater than minus half. That is, for these three cases, That is, for these three cases, quantity B is coming out to be greater than quantity A. But then just for one case, when the power is 1, just for one case, when the power is 1, the two values are coming out to be equal. Just for one case, the two values are coming out to be equal. So do you have a specific relationship? No, we don't have. Just one case is sufficient to figure out whether the given information is not sufficient. Right? So the relationship cannot be determined from the given information, and hence your answer becomes 4 or the D. Hence your answer becomes 4 or the D. So this should be actually your last resort. See, the problem with this type is that, let's suppose if you don't take one into consideration. For example, you start with 2, 3, 4, 5. In that case, all results in case of quantity B would have been greater than all the results of quantity, right? So then it will become a problem, right? So in questions like these, if you are like unable to think of anything, you're losing time, you're feeling the time pressure, then okay, take couple of values and try to take those values which will actually give you answer as 4. Okay, try to take those values, because if you are able to justify that those values are also not giving you answer as a D, that is, the relationship cannot be determined, then of course you can go with 1, 2, or 3. But then you have to think of those values. You have to actually start thinking in those terms. Okay. Okay, now what's the logical way out here? Let's try to understand that also. Let me remove these values now. Now we discussed that whenever you have a variable which is between 0 and 1, then higher the power, lesser the value. Then what you have is, you have higher the power, lesser the value. But what if the value is between -1 and 0? Then this is not as simple as it seems to be. Now the first thing you need to understand here is, if you have a value which lies between -1 and 0, then if you raise it to an even power, if you raise it to an even power, then this will always give you a positive result. This will always give you a positive result. Second thing is, if you have higher the power, if you have higher the power, it will give you lesser the value. It is exactly on the lines of when you have the value of the expression between 0 and 1. But if in case you have an odd power, then the result is negative. If you have an odd power, then the result is negative. And apart from this, higher the power, higher the value. Higher the power, higher the value. For example, if you do minus half to the power 1, okay, I'm only, when I write even and odd, I'm only taking positive integers into consideration. If I also bringing the negative part, then the question will become too long. And we have discussed this one case also, when the value of the expression is between -1 and 0, and the exponent or the power is positive, negative, even, and odd. So we have considered all the four cases. You can go back to the basics of inequalities, where we have discussed all these types of questions. Okay, you can go back to the basic videos, go to the playlist, go to the inequalities playlist, and go over them. Anyways, so if you have minus half to the power 1, then this is simply minus half. If you do minus half to the power 3, then this is minus 1 over 8. If you do minus half to the power 5, then this is minus 1 by 30. And we know that in case of negative, smaller the number, effectively greater it is. Smaller the number, effectively greater it is. So minus 1 by 32 will be greater than minus 1 by 8 will be greater than minus half. Now if you know this concept, then you'll be like, okay, if I have minus half to the power 1, then the two things are definitely equal. But if I have anything apart from 1, But if I have anything apart from 1 as the value of h, considering h is a positive integer, then quantity b will always be greater. Then quantity b will always be greater. For example, if I change my question, if I change my question stem and if I write h is a positive integer greater than 1, then everything will change. Now in this case, your answer will be B. Now in this case, your answer will be B. Because if you're going to have an even integer, then g to the power h is always greater than g. And if you have an odd integer greater than 1, then also g to the power h is still greater than g. Okay. So see, this is like the in-depth understanding of inequalities and exponents which we need to know in order to solve these questions comfortably. Okay. Okay. Anyways, let's move on to the next question now. Pause the video and try this question, please. All right, let's try this one. So it says that A is less than B. A is less than B. Quantity A is mod of A plus B. Quantity B is mod of A minus B. Now what I'll actually think about in this question is, I'll actually think about the signs of A and B in this case. Now if A is less than B, I'll say, okay, if B is positive, if B is positive, A can be positive, right? Because 3 is less than 5. A can be 0 and A can be negative also. If you are able to figure out just this one case, you'll get your answer. Nothing more is required in this. This is like more than sufficient. Now see, if A and B are both positive, if A and B are both positive, it will add up. And this quantity, that is quantity A, will automatically be greater than A minus B or mod of A minus B. Because A plus B is like adding up. A minus B is like subtracting things. You're taking difference, right? Now, although when you're going to put mod across the difference or across, even if A minus B is negative, let's consider now, A minus B will be negative, my bad. A minus B will be negative because A is less than B. But still negative mod, mod of A minus B being negative will still be less than mod of A plus B. Because magnitude wise, A plus B will definitely be greater than A minus B. Because you have two quantities, both of them positive. In one case you are adding them, in the other case you are subtracting them. So the magnitude of addition will always be greater, that's for sure, right? Magnitude of addition will always be greater. Whether you put mod, you don't put mod, that's a secondary thing. But if you have two quantities having similar signs, and if you are adding them up, their addition's magnitude will always be greater than their difference magnitude. Now if in case, so for the first case I can say that A will be greater, that's for sure. If in case A is 0, B is still positive, then A will not matter. So in that case, quantity A as well as quantity B both will be mod B, which is simply equal to B. In that case, your answer is C. What if one of them is negative? If one of the numbers is negative and the other is positive, then remember that magnitude of their difference is always greater. What I mean by that is, let's suppose you take one number to be -2, you take another number to be 3. So -2 plus 3, or -2 minus 3, or whether you write 3 minus of -2. In both the cases, I'm taking a difference one way or the other. What I'm doing is I'm taking the difference. So in this case, my magnitude is 1. I'm not concerned with sign. In both the cases, my magnitude is 5. Again, I'm not concerned with sign, just considering the magnitude part. So in this case, B will be greater. In this case, my answer becomes B. Do I have to think further? No, it's not required. No, it's not required. Right? So this is what it's going to be. So I think I can simply say that my answer is 4, that the relationship between the two cannot be determined from the given information. All right, let's move on now. Let's move to the next question. Pause the video and try this question, please. All right, so x is not equal to 0. We have quantity A, which is mod of x plus mod of minus 3. Another one is mod of x minus 3. Okay. So I can rewrite quantity A as, I can rewrite this as mod of x plus 3, because mod of minus 3 is simply equal to 3, and this will basically become mod of x minus 3. Now x is not equal to 0. I have mod of x plus 3. Now this value will always be positive, and I'm going to add 3 to this, which means the result of this is always 3 plus something. Result of this is always 3 plus something, because mod of x is always be positive since x is not equal to 0 and you're adding 3 to it. So the result of this is always 3 plus something. You will always add something to 3. That's for sure. What about the other one? The other one is basically mod of x minus 3, which means the distance between x and 3. Mod of x minus 3 means distance between x and 3. Now, it may happen that the distance is equal to 1 unit when the value of x is 2 or 4. It may happen that the distance between them is equal to 2 units when the value of x is 1 and 5. It may happen that the distance between x and 3 is equal to 3 units when the value of x is 0 or 6. Then 4 units, then 5 units, then 6 units, then 7 units. It all depends upon the value of x. But we know one thing for sure, that if we talk about mod of x minus 3, this is basically 0 or more. When x will be equal to 3, then mod of x minus 3 will be 0. But if x is anything apart from 3, then it will be more than 0. Right? So basically we can say that quantity B can be less than quantity A. If you take x to be 4, then 4 plus 3 will be 7. But mod of 4 minus 3 will simply be equal to 1. So quantity B can be less than quantity A depending upon x. And quantity B can be equal to quantity A also. For example, if you take x to be minus 10, if you take x to be minus 10, then this becomes 13. And this here becomes minus 10 minus 3 mod, and this is equal, this is again equal to 13. So quantity A and B can be equal also. If the value of x is negative, then they both can be equal. Or if you have like certain positive values, then quantity B will be less than quantity A. So do I have a specific relationship between the two? No, we don't have any specific relationship between them. So your answer is simply 4 or D, that is the relationship between the two cannot be determined. Right? So this was a bit difficult if you're not very comfortable with the mod part, but this is actually a very good question. Right? So I hope all the questions that we have discussed in this video are clear to each one of you. Right? So we'll keep it till here as far as this video is concerned. We are still left with like 6 to 7 questions based on the quantity comparison of inequalities and modulus. And once again, guys, thank you so much for supporting us. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do that for more videos and exam related content. If you have any questions, if you have any queries, or if you want to connect with us for personalized classes, you can always do that. Okay. And thank you so much, guys. Keep watching and keep learning. Thank you so much.